In the past week, the crypto market has experienced a wild freefall that resulted in Bitcoin losing about half of its value from its peak value of 63,000, and it fell and bottomed out near 30,000, as you can see in the chart. Plus, Elon Musk followed that up with he started crap tweeting that Tesla will no longer, this wasn't even the worst of the tweet, but it did affect the market, that he stated that Tesla suspended vehicle purchases using Bitcoin. He followed that up by replying to someone named Crypto Whale on Twitter, stating that implying that Tesla sold its Bitcoin position. As you can see, we can look at a chart in the comments by TradingView. These just tweets were just kind of hammering Bitcoin, and that's where it started. But that's not why we're here today. We're here to explore the technology behind Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market and the blockchain. The reason why I mention these current events are because it's been trending everywhere. Everyone knows about cryptocurrency now. It's definitely on the center stage and everyone knows about it, so why not understand the technology behind it? So we're going to do a deep dive. We're going to do a touching dive. We're going to grace over and understand what is the blockchain. So, blockchain was first outlined in 1991 by researchers Stuart Haber and W. Scott Stornetta, essentially described as digital timestamps that could not be tampered with. It would eventually be adopted by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009, where the Bitcoin protocol is built on the blockchain and this concept of the blockchain. As you can see in the image, this is a block. It has a cryptographic hash of the previous block, a timestamp, and transaction data of the current block, which is then verified by the next block in the blockchain. And that's how it works. I mentioned that the blockchain is a decentralized system. This is integral in the blockchain technology because no single entity is in charge or is a sole authority. For instance, there is no Bitcoin bank making executive decisions. Instead, individuals at each level have their own autonomy and make their own decisions. And currently, it is an unregulated market. Although, in other videos, in future videos, I will explain how that will most likely change because governments want to regulate, especially if something can compromise their currency. In a decentralized system, there is no middleman or controlling entities. You can think of it as a more free society of economic transactions, almost like a Wild West, but at least everyone can freely transact and use their own money. This leads to the implementation of the blockchain. The most popular implementation is Bitcoin. So what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, a digital asset which is then stored on the ledger and designed to serve as a medium of exchange for goods or services. This is its theoretical purpose, at least, because so far Bitcoin is not widely accepted as a currency. You can't really pay for anything, but you can think of it more as gold, a digital version of gold. Bitcoin, proposed in 2009, it is a peer-to-peer version of electronic cash, as it states right here in the abstract, would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. No middleman. There is no centralized system. This is decentralized. How does it work? Well, let's go back to the idea of a blockchain. The blockchain is used by the Bitcoin protocol. It is a network of timestamped transactions that are then hashed in an ongoing proof of work record that cannot be changed without redoing the proof of work. In other terms, redoing the entire blockchain, which is infeasible, not possible. It would take too much CPU power to undo the blockchain. It wouldn't be worth it. And that eliminates the double spending issue, which if you do more research, you can understand that issue. Remember, I mentioned that this protocol is decentralized, but why? Why is that important? Well, at least as Satoshi Nakamoto proposes, one of the main reasons is to eliminate financial institution middleman. Why? Well, financial institutions and many business opportunities exist on a trust-based model, a basis of trust between the operator and the user. Bitcoin says scrap that. We want a verification model that is trustless and private, but it works. No one has to trust anyone in order for the system to function. With Bitcoin, each part of the ecosystem can validate what the other parts are telling it without needing to trust anybody. If you broadcast a Bitcoin transaction, all nodes that receive it have to verify that the signatures are valid and discard the transactions that are not. Before Bitcoin, to use digital money, we need a trusted third party to keep a ledger, and they are the ones who verify it, the centralized intermediary. An example of this trusted third party are MasterCard and Visa, or your bank. So I'll give you an example. So if Alice sent Bob $100, this trusted third party would debit Alice's account and credit Bob's account. They would update their ledger, and we all had to trust that a third party would do the right thing and be good stewards of our money and not screw us over, and that it's trusted. Now with Bitcoin, we get rid of that centralized intermediary. We don't need it anymore, because if everyone has a ledger, we no longer need to trust a single entity or third party, because there's no need to trust when you can just verify against this ledger because you have a copy of it. Everyone has a copy. It's broadcasted on the blockchain. In other words, this electronic payment system is based on cryptographic proof instead of trust, allowing any two parties willing to transact directly with each other without the need for a trusted third party. Cryptography, it is the process of converting ordinary plain text into unintelligible text and vice versa. As you can see, this encrypted and it turns into unintelligible text. You don't know what that means, but it means hello Alice. It is a method of storing and transmitting data in a particular form so that only those for whom it is intended can read and process it. What are the pros and cons? First, the privacy. The public can see that someone is sending an amount to someone else, but without information linking the transaction to anyone, it's private. To understand this, time and size of individual transactions are made public, similar to how stocks transactions are made public, but you don't know the name, you don't know the parties that were involved. That's the anonymity involved. A new key pair should be used for each transaction in the blockchain to keep them from being linked to a common owner. Although if this is compromised, the owner key is revealed, linking could reveal other transaction history, eliminating the privacy, but that is easily combated by creating new wallets and new keys. Secondly, no third-party seizure. Another one, taxes. There's no taxes on Bitcoin, at least for the most part, because there are taxes if you are using the common brokerages, and if there's a capital gain, you are then taxed on it. But if you hypothetically send someone a Bitcoin and you send it back, there is no taxes, but that's not how it functions currently. As I said earlier, it functions more as gold. Another pro, the last pro, is the price of cryptocurrency is not controlled by a government or centralized financial institution. There is no mass inflation, which is like a hidden tax. It's defined by its value correlation to real world figures and is driven by the market supply and demand. This is a double-edged sword, because if Satoshi decided to dump his predicted 1 million Bitcoins, the valuation will decrease significantly without a guaranteed bounce back. Now let's understand the drawbacks. Bitcoin poses its own set of issues, including the blockchain transactions still being dependent on trust, considering there's no recovery of stolen assets. The first major drawback is that Bitcoin and almost all cryptocurrencies are not accepted. Therefore, you cannot completely rely on Bitcoin as a currency. Plus, governments might force merchants and institutions to not use Bitcoin to ensure that users' transactions can be tracked and to eliminate the privacy aspect, because they would say it's eliminating the potential for fraud, and also because they want to tax these transactions. Second, wallets can be lost or stolen. And once this happens, say goodbye. There's almost zero chance of recovering your crypto. This can easily bankrupt a wealthy Bitcoin investor within seconds with no way to recover, creating permanently orphaned coins. Another issue with Bitcoin is that the valuation fluctuates. This causes confusion for transactions, especially with refunds. Now let's end this video discussing the future of blockchain technology, and that is smart contracts. Well, what is a smart contract? Think of them as an automated escrow or a middleman. Self-executing contract with the terms and agreement between the buyer and seller being directly written into code. The code controls the execution, and transactions are trackable and irreversible. The goal is to simplify business and trade between both anonymous and identified parties without the need for middlemen. In doing so, it scales down on formality, and the cost decrease, and the time associated with traditional methods also decrease, without compromising on the authenticity and credibility if the code is flawless and there are limited bugs, although that is not reality as of yet. Let me give you an example. Bob wants to sell his car. He decides he would like to use CarMax because it is secure and he won't have to do anything. Gets an offer online, makes an appointment, goes in person, and CarMax has to go through the work to verify the offer, verify Bob is the actual owner, and then process the payment. Then if Alice wants to buy it, she must go through CarMax to buy the car. Now let's review a scenario if Bob were to use a smart contract to sell his car. Bob would like to sell his car. He defines in a smart contract the conditions by which he will sell the car and signs a contract with his private key. Bob leaves his car locked with a smart lock in his garage. The car has its own blockchain address, and the smart lock is controlled by a smart contract. Alice would like to buy a car. She finds Bob's car on an internet platform and signs a smart contract with a private key. She adds the agreed amount from her blockchain address to Bob's blockchain address. As soon as a contract is executed, the whole blockchain network will check if Bob is a real owner of the car, and if Alice has enough money to buy the car. If all peers in the blockchain network agree on the same state, it means that all conditions in the smart contract are met. The access code for the smart lock will be transferred to Alice, and the blockchain address of the car will be registered to Alice. Bob will get the defined amount of money in his blockchain address. Alice will be able to open the smart lock with her private key and drive off with her new car, eliminating any sort of middleman. This whole system of executing is much faster than having to go through intermediaries. This would automate and disrupt the used car sales industry. There's a lot more research and development needed to get to a state where smart contracts are frequently used. Despite this, the technology seems to be the future and where things are headed. Personally, doing this research into smart contracts, it is motivating me to look into the area even more since it's so fresh and not overly saturated yet. We shall see. Wrapping up the video, we covered the blockchain. Fundamentally, it is a ledger of digital timestamps and accessible for data structures of various records. It can create digital currencies, cryptocurrency, process complex deals, smart contracts, transact funds, the use of the cryptocurrency, and we went over the implementation of the smart contract, which is very interesting and a developing technology that will probably be used in the future. And I will even do a video probably later down the line describing how Visa is actually investing in the idea of the smart contract and the smart contract startups. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something. I know I did in this research process. It took me quite a while. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next week.
No, don't hit my phone. She said you only hit me up when you're